So welcome back to my channel. We are going to talk about the Gilded Age, episode 6. The title is Heads Have Rolled for Less. So this week was really good. I actually had to watch the episode twice because there was so much going on, so much good character development. It was funny. I feel like we touched on every character almost. It was just really good. Like I said, it's so much to talk about. So I have a whole bunch of notes, but I want to start with your girl, Bertha. Now, I said from the beginning, in the very first episode, I felt bad for Bertha. When she threw that big party and nobody showed up and the way they were snubbing her and everything, my heart went out to her a little bit because I just saw that all she wanted was to be accepted. And they were being mean girls to her. But as week goes by, I realized that I have my sympathy for her is waning, and I may not even have any sympathy at all because she's a bitch, and it's like I could even wrap my mind around her if I felt like she had love for certain people and everything she was doing was in furtherance of that. But it seems like it's all in furtherance of what she wants. Even George doesn't want this acceptance into society the way she does. Her daughter doesn't want it. Her son doesn't want it. Like, all of this is about Bertha. And she can sit here and she could package it nicely and say she's doing it for her family. But at the end of the day, this is all about her and what she wants. And this was truly illustrated in this episode because we saw last week that there was a accident on the railroad. And so obviously George is concerned that we find out this week that there were 5 deaths. They go to the site of the scene, and they're talking to folks and taking pictures and all this other stuff. Red Cross comes out to try to help and alleviate the situation. And Bertha is there making appearances, and it's very clear that she just doesn't have a real vested interest in this. I understand she doesn't want her husband to feel bad about what happened, but there's a moment where you have to be sad and you have to feel away, even if it's not, he didn't drive the train off the tracks and it's not technically his fault. I mean, some people can say it is his fault because, he owns all of this, and we later find out that it was a broken axle, and there's some question as to whether or not he okayed this. I mean, that's to be seen later, but people died, and I feel like her emotion is just like she's cold. And George even says it to her later, like, she is just a cold person, and everything she's doing is all about being accepted into society. And I'm really curious to know, when she does get this, when she becomes part of the inner circle, which it looks like she's going to become, then what? Like, what is your end game here? I hate the way she treats Gladys. And last week we talked about this when she worked, she manipulated behind the scenes to make sure that that young man, I can't remember his last name, left her daughter alone because she says she wants more. Knowing the true story, knowing that the Russells are based on the Vanderbilts, that, this Gladys is most likely based on Consuela, and her mother eventually marries her off to a British noble, and she has an unhappy marriage and all this other good stuff. So I'm imagining that that's what's going to happen, and that's what she wants. I mean, she wants her to be one of those dollar princesses. But at what cost? You are rich. You're about to be accepted by society. Why make your daughter suffer in a loveless marriage or a relationship she doesn't want? For what? What is there to still be gained here? And that's the thing that's really making me dislike her, because she just does not seem to care. I thought that I thought George was the one person that she truly cared about. And I'm not saying she doesn't love him or don't care about him, but even with him, it's not, when he talks to her about the train incident and he says, she's like, so we're going to have to take care of this. And, we have to try and do damage control. And he's thinking along the lines of like the business, and she's thinking about their image in society, so it's like they're having 2 different conversations, and she couldn't even set aside her own ambition for a moment to be sensitive to the situation and to what her husband was going through.
Because I heard today that Mr. McCallister wants to come here for luncheon. What do you think of that?
Well, if you're asking, I think the fact that 5 men are dead and a member of my staff has blood on his hands is a little more important than whether or not the great Ward McCallister comes here for luncheon.
It matters, George. I've worked for this, and it matters to me, even if it doesn't to you.
Well, you're right there. I don't give a rat's ass when Mr. McCallister breaks his bread.
And that was the first time that I saw George be angry with her or upset with her or call her out on her shit. You know, he was like, I don't give a, she's talking about Ward McCallister and luncheon and all this other stuff. And he's dealing with this serious situation here. And she just seems to be oblivious to it. The only concern she has is how is this going to affect her reputation? And he calls her on it. And she still doesn't see, and like, she still doesn't back down. You know, she's like, this is very important to me. You don't understand. Like, not Gladys, Bertha, where is your emotion in your heart and where's your humanity in this? You know, and you have the audacity to sit here, want to be a part of the Red Cross. And we know why she's doing this, but you are attaching yourself to organizations and to causes that are about humankind and helping people, and that's the last thing on your agenda. She's still reading Gladys's letters. You know, George did not like that. He didn't appreciate that. You know, listen, I guess in George's head, look, like, I already sent the boy away. I did what you wanted me to do. I threatened him. You know, it's over. Why are you still reading her letters? I mean, she's overbearing, and I get it that, you know, at that time a lot of women were like that, and she's not quote unquote out yet, but it's very clear that her daughter is just a pawn. You know, she's just a chip for Bertha to use for her own purposes. And as I get it, but at the same time, that's your daughter. You know, and George even says that, like, what the hell do you care about? Do you even care about your daughter? I like the conversation that Gladys had with her father, because she called him out and she told him, she's like, you're one of the most powerful men in this country. You own all these things, but you can't even stand up to your own damn wife. And I'm glad that she said it to him, because she's probably the only person who could say it to him and he could take it from, because he has to check Bertha at this point. She's doing way too much. You know, the more power she gets, the worse she's going to get, and the harder she's going to be to reel in. And so just going into this episode, she was on fire. I didn't like the way she treated her husband. I didn't like the way she handled the situation with the railroad. I definitely didn't like the way she treated Gladys. When Gladys and Larry were invited to that tea party, she told her son he could go, but Gladys couldn't. Like, she didn't even consider it. It was just like, no, Gladys can't go. Like, she just doesn't have any compassion or understanding or appreciation of what her daughter is feeling. And then the only reason she let her go is because she found out that the Astor's daughter was going to be there. And then when Gladys and the Astor daughter, I think her name's Carrie, became friends and she came to the house later, we saw Bertha come in and be kind to her and and say that she was going to allow Gladys to attend some event because Carrie pushed the issue, but she's only doing it because Carrie is Mrs. Astor's daughter. Like, every time she gives, anytime she yields, it's for her own benefit. It's always with something else on the mind. And it's just really disturbing to me. She also played out church this week. You know, when she found out from Aurora that Ward McCallister was going to come to luncheon, and Aurora told her, you know, he's used to the English way, so, you know, just be mindful of that. She went into a tizzy and she directed her staff to do that. And then when church was a little bit hesitant, because that's not his style, they've been doing things the French way, you know, she went over his head and she asked Banister if he would just take over. You know, that was wrong. It was wrong. It was embarrassing. It's belittling. You know, again, everything is about her and her ambition, and she just doesn't care who she steps on to get there. And I'm waiting for her karma. I really am. And I don't know if it's going to come. You know, people like that tend to kind of like dodge karma for some reason. Things always tend to work out for them. But I'm just very disappointed in her. I just did not like what she did. So anyway, she offers Banister $100 for him to just basically come over and take over the luncheon and the setup.
I'm afraid I've asked too much of you, Church. It wasn't fair of me. Mr. Bannister, for all our sakes, is there any chance I can prevail on you to take charge?
At the luncheon?
So obviously this is embarrassing to Church. It's disrespectful, you know, all of these things. Banister accepts it. So now I did a little bit of research because, you know, he's saying like $100. Like, what is that? But in that time, in the late 1800s, $100 is equivalent to like $2,700 today. So knowing that, I get it, even though Bannister does seem like he is a man of integrity, or at least I thought he was, and he seems like he might be, loyalty seemed like it was important to him, and it might trump the money because he's worked for the Van Rhijns for so long. And so for him to do this, to accept that money, knowing that Agnes would be livid, and to sneak around and all this, I mean, I was a little disappointed in him, but at the same time, I don't know Bannister's whole story. That money could be life-changing to him or to his family or to whomever. But yeah, so Bannister agrees to do this, and this is where it got hilarious, okay? So he goes over, and Bannister's a little messy because we saw a couple episodes before when he went to go check out the Russell's house and Church was showing him around, and he was like, taking little shots at him for the way that Church runs their household, basically. And you can tell he got something out of that. There's a little pep in his step when he left and a little bit of a giggle, to kind of get a one-up over Church. But again, I imagine that, what else are you doing, right? Like, I mean, life must be a little, you get your moments where you have a little bit of fun with life, and maybe that's the way that he had a little bit of fun. It just broke the monotony. So, I mean, I thought that scene was cute, but in this instance, he really relishes in the fact that he has been summoned and paid to come in and do what the Russell's butler obviously could not do. So he comes in and he guides them on which silverware to use and all this other stuff, and he pretty much takes over. However, because he had to lie to Agnes to get away for the luncheon, and he was, Miss Armstrong snitched on him, Agnes got a note while she was at luncheon, learning that Banister was over there. So she hightails it across the street. This scene was absolutely hilarious. We saw the preview last week where she jumps up from her table and she runs across the street and she walks in while they are all eating lunch. And when she sees Banister and when Banister sees her, that scene was absolutely priceless.
How can I refuse?
Banister, do my eyes deceive me?
Well, you see.
So she comes in, she's shocked to see Marian there, she's shocked to see all of this stuff going on, and they all pretty much rally together to smooth it over on behalf of Miss Russell. So Aurora says some comment like, oh, well, you must have got the times mixed up. Marian says that Agnes came over to see Ward, and so they all are kind of rallying together to smooth it over and make it not look bad. And then Agnes collects herself in the moment, although she is livid. She's also overtaken by the opulence of this house, and because she always said she was not going to step foot in that house. She's old money, she's old school. Everything about Bertha offends her, and her way of life. So seeing all of this in person, you can see she was overwhelmed. Probably impressed on some level, but just completely overwhelmed. So it was just a lot going on. Once she realized what she had done and that she lost control, she was embarrassed. She made a graceful exit, or as graceful as it could be given the circumstances, and went back home. And we saw later that she was very disappointed in herself. When she was having conversation with Miss Armstrong, she admitted that she lost control. That's so not like her. She's upset. But I do think that what's going to happen now is that she's going to be, I think she's going to try to seek revenge on some level, because, well, definitely with Banister, because, and she has a right to, because number one, he lied to her, and number two, he disrespected her. Like, I don't know what the protocol is as far as butlers working for other people and all this stuff, but knowing specifically how she feels about the Russells, like, he was definitely out of line. I doubt she'll get rid of him because he probably does really good work, but she will make him suffer. And he even told the other staff that when he got back to the house that, she's not speaking to him, so he doesn't know what to expect. So we'll see what happens. But she's going to make him pay. She's going to make everybody pay. And her game is going to be the long game. It's going to be strategic. It's going to be quiet. It's going to be below the surface, just the way I like to see it happen. You know, she's not going to scream and shout and flail and all this other stuff because she is a dignified lady, but she is going to have her moment, and I am here for it. And Bertha deserves it.
Heads have rolled for less.
Okay, so Bertha does go to the Red Cross meeting because she has made donations, and so Clara Barton, realizing she's a social climber, but it's to her benefit because she's getting money from the Russells for her cause. They elect her to become a part of the board. So you know, these are all these she's climbing the rungs of society, right? And so she's getting accepted, even if it's begrudgingly. You know, and she's using all these different methods. So Bertha is smart. I will give that to her. Anne Morris was there. She's still in mourning. She's dressed all in black. And, you know, she says to everybody, like, this is really about money at this point because I can't give anymore. And because she can, you guys are taking her side. And, you know, they all are just kind of just going along with it. You know, you can see that the tide is starting to shift. And Bertha is making her way into society. I did really enjoy the scene with Agnes and Miss Armstrong because Miss Armstrong is a whole bitch, right? She's been so mean to Peggy since Peggy got there. I mean, I don't know if it's race, it's most likely race, but then it's also class, and it's also she's just a miserable old woman. And when she keeps, you know, taking shots at Peggy and she keeps dismissing her. And so when the cook, I think her name is Miss Bauer, said to her, like, why are you being so mean to her? And I think Miss Armstrong's excuse was something along the lines of, like, she keeps belittling me or thinking I can't do my job or whatever. Whatever it is, it's definitely not about Peggy. It's all about Miss Armstrong. She is a miserable old woman. And she's taking it out on Peggy because she probably feels like she can, like, because this is a black woman. Even if she outranks me professionally, I am a white woman and she's a black woman, and if there's anybody here I can step on, it's her. So she mistreats her. Peggy takes it in stride. She's very graceful. She still speaks to her. She's still respectful, a lot more than I would do, but that's just Peggy's personality. So Miss Armstrong is Agnes's maid. And Agnes, you know, Agnes is so shrewd. She sees everything. She hears everything. She knows what's going on. And she called Miss Armstrong on it when Armstrong was saying something about she's concerned that Peggy's article might shine a poor light on the family or some nonsense, whatever. Basically, she was up there trying to be a snitch or trying to cause trouble when there really is no trouble to cause.
If you continue to try to make trouble for Miss Scott, I will be angry.
And Agnes shut her down. She was like, you know, you need to get over this. You need to stop. Stop trying to make her life miserable. Stop being a busybody and stop being prejudiced. Because if you keep doing this, I'm going to be angry and you're not going to like it. So she threatened her in a very classy, highbrow way and letting her know, like, stop, enough already. Like, I'm not doing this with you. So I was glad to see that. I do, like I said last week, I love Agnes and Peggy, and I love that Agnes respects her, that she likes her, that she backs her, that she supports her. I mean, it would be very easy for Agnes to allow Miss Armstrong to do what she's doing or to just not say anything. But she is standing up for her and letting her know that this is not acceptable and that, you know, Peggy is not to be mistreated. And if she is, that you're going to have to deal with me. So, you know, Miss Armstrong hears it. She's not happy about it. I think when she is the one who snitched on Banister later, that was her way of trying to get back into Agnes's good graces. We also saw later that she saw Oscar and Miss Turner across the street because, you know, those two are in cahoots because Miss Turner is upset that George has turned her down. So she's trying to get revenge, and she knows that Oscar is trying to get to Gladys, which will never happen. So the two of them are in cahoots, right? And they're meeting in the park and all these other places, and Oscar's basically paying her for information. So anywho, Miss Armstrong, you know, being the sneaky snitchy lady she is, she sees them, and she also tells Agnes about this later, you know, and lets him know that, like, I guess Oscar and Miss Turner are talking or whatever. I don't know what she told her because it was in a whisper. I don't know if she's thinking that the two of them are messing around or she's just wondering why the two of them are speaking. But I think that and her sending the note about Bannister is all to get back into Agnes's good graces because she pissed her off about the whole Peggy thing. Let me see what else. Let's talk about Marian for a little bit. I'm not a huge Marian fan. It's her naivete for me. That, like, there's a good part of it. You know, she does embrace people. She does give a different opinion. She is her own woman. It's not that I don't like her. I don't dislike her. I don't like her, if that makes sense. Like, I like Agnes and I like other characters. Like, Marian, you know, she's an important part of the story, but she doesn't really do anything for me. Her and Peggy are out in the street because the two of them went to the Red Cross meeting together. And when it's time for them to go their separate ways, Peggy is going down to the newspaper office to go see her boss or the editor of the paper, because her article was a hit. It increased the subscription. So, you know, Peggy is doing really well right now. Very happy for her. But they hail a cab, and the cab stops and says that he will take Marian, but he will not take Peggy. And Marian, you know, starts aren't you trying to make money? And I'm not going to step away. And she does all that. And Peggy steps away because she's like, this is just not worth the fight. And, you know, she tells her, you know, I've been dealing with this my whole life. Like, this is stupid. I'm not going to go back and forth with a cab driver. I'll just hail a cab. And if he stops, that means he's going to take me. And, you know, it's just interesting because this is in the 1880s and Black people still have problems getting cabs in Manhattan. It just goes to show you how the more things change, the more things stay the same. But Peggy knows. She knows her place in society. She knows how she is viewed. We saw that scene when she was in Bloomingdale's and how they were looking at her and ready to usher her out the store. So, you know, she is a realist. And I think that this is going to be a constant sore point between her and Marian, because Marian is this idealist who thinks that everything should work out, and I don't know if Marian sees the world the way it really is, but maybe her friendship with Peggy will enlighten her. Speaking of enlightening, you know, she and Mr. Rakes, the attorney, have been, you know, flirting and running into each other a lot of different places. Agnes does not like it. She thinks that he's an adventurer. She doesn't think that he is good enough, so to speak, for Marian, because she realizes that Marian has no money from her father and that if she is going to secure her future, she's going to need to do it through marriage. And although Mr. Rakes, I mean, he's an attorney, it doesn't, like, I don't know what his income is. And I don't know if Agnes even knows, but she doesn't think it's enough. But Marian, because she is, you know, who she is and a little rebellious, she's not going to give up on this man who she likes. Now, this is where I'm starting to think that Mr. Rakes may not be who he says he is. He was her attorney in Pennsylvania. We got the impression he was like a small town attorney. And then he moves to New York, and he's popping up everywhere. He's at the opera. He's going here. He just told her he was going out to Long Island to some event. Like, he's hobnobbing and he's rubbing elbows with all these people. And my question is, how does he know these people? How did he just seamlessly get into society the way he did? And now Agnes thinks that he's using Marian. And he, you know, Marian does have some connections, so there might be some of that. You know, him going to lunch at the Fanes and him going to lunch at the Russells was all by the way of Marian, but he also has a lot of connections on his own. And so I don't know if he's using her, because, like, kind of like Marian said, she's like, I have no money, and he knows people already, so what would he get out of this? But I'm looking at him a little cockeyed because I just don't understand how he just got here and he knows all these people and he's working his way through society. I just don't know what his game plan is or what his angle is. I think there's more to him than we're seeing, and I think Agnes is onto something. I don't know what yet, but I don't wholly trust him. And because I do think Marian is a little naive, she could be missing some signs. Marian goes to meet with Miss Chamberlain because Miss Burton wants donations from Miss Chamberlain. She knows that Miss Chamberlain has a lot of money, but she is also a social pariah. The only person who's really talking to her is Marian. So Marian goes to see her, and she tells her about, you know, the opportunity with the Red Cross, and they have a moment where they start talking. And Miss Chamberlain tells her, you know, listen, everything they say about me is true. I was with a married man before his wife died. You know, while he was still alive, people treated me well, but as soon as he died, that was the end of that. You know, and she likes Marian because Marian is nice to her and Marian's respectful to her. Marian tells her about her situation with the attorney. And, you know, I guess they kind of finding some similarity here because they're both into men who probably society wouldn't want them to be with. And Miss Chamberlain gives her an opportunity to meet with him at her house because there's really no place else for them to do it. So we see that this is probably going to be their meeting place moving forward. But I like the conversation between them. It was very big sister, little sister. And I believe that Miss Chamberlain, you know, even if she did make a mistake, you know, she committed a social no-no, she says she's happy with her decision. I mean, she clearly was in love with her husband, and I guess she doesn't regret it, you know, and she's just dealing with the consequences of a decision that she made. So I think that, you know, she will be a good source for Marian and somebody who will keep it real with her. And, you know, maybe, and I think Marian will listen to her. So if it comes out to be later that the attorney is no good or that she should leave him alone, if Miss Chamberlain sees this, she would tell Marian, and I think Marian would listen to her, whereas she dismisses everything that Agnes says. So I like their relationship, and I like to see where this is going between the two of them. So I'm very happy for Peggy. You know, she did that article about the Red Cross, and it did extremely well. She is in, you know, Clara Barton likes her. She invited her to come into the meeting. You know, Peggy is getting her way into society, and it's like, it's nice because see, this is the difference. Peggy is entering these rooms and she is being accepted and people are seeing her, and, you know, she'll never be seen as an equal, not in that time period, you know, but for a Black woman at that late 1800s, this is big, you know. And I know her mom is very upset with the fact that she's over there, you know, living in the Van Rhijn's house and working as a secretary, but Peggy's doing pretty good. And I feel like all these connections that she's making, the information she's getting, just, you know, just the observation of just being in a room and seeing how these people move, it's only to her benefit. And I think that we are going to see really huge things from Peggy later on. Like, I could see her at one point, like, owning the paper, running her own paper, being the first Black woman to operate a periodical in those times or something like that. Like, I see the trajectory is there. She goes home at one point and we see she's talking to her mom, and, you know, her mother is like, you know, I'm happy for you and I'm proud of you, but your father still feels the way he does. And, you know, so we see that there's still some work to be done there, but it's good to see that her mother supports her. And she is trying to be like this go-between between Peggy and her father, because clearly there's tension between the two of them. I want to go back to Gladys a little bit. Poor Gladys. You know, I feel really bad. Sorry. I feel so bad for her. You know, she has a conversation with her father where she says, you know, I'm ordinary. I want to live an ordinary life. And she probably she doesn't know what that really means. I mean, she's probably never had an ordinary life. And, you know, there are benefits to her lifestyle and to her parents' income. But, you know, it's just sad that she keeps getting shot down every angle. You know, she's not going to be able to be with the man that she likes, possibly loves. You know, she's most likely going to get married off as a dollar princess and be unhappy in the future, you know, but her mom is just so dismissive of her. And so I'm glad to see that she was able to go to that tea party with her brother. I love that her brother supports her and will do whatever he has to in order to gain her some freedom. And, she meets Carrie Astor, and they bond over the fact that both their mothers are overbearing and overprotective. And she has an ally now. And that ally this is probably the best ally for her to have, because Carrie is who she is, and because Bertha is in awe of her mother, she will allow much more leniency and much more room for Gladys if Carrie is involved. So I'm happy that she found a friend, somebody who gets it, and somebody who can help her kind of like get from underneath her mother's thumb. So it looks like Ward likes Bertha. It seems like he was impressed with her. She made, she had these little gifts. Those fans were gorgeous. Those little fans that they had at the table, and then she gave him some kind of little gift with his monogram on it or something, and he seems to be moved by her. So I'm imagining that she will, she'll keep moving up these rungs and she will get what she wants. But I don't want her to get it. I'm not Team Bertha at all. I don't like the way she has treated her family. She just has no loyalty. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Bertha is only loyal to Bertha, and that is never a good thing. And I think it's going to come back to bite her, and I want it to, because, she doesn't deserve it. She has not demonstrated any redeeming qualities to show that she deserves to be up on the top tier of society, because she has there's no grace about her. I mean, she knows how to act the part and behave in society, but she's not a nice person. And if you give her, the more power she gets, the more she's going to wield it, to her advantage, and she won't care how it affects anybody. And people like that are dangerous, and people like that should not have power, and they should not have money. And she's just getting more and more powerful. So we're going to see, it looks like they discover that there was a broken axle, and that there's going to be some kind of investigation, because there's going to be a question of whether or not George approved this. And if he did, he could be culpable for these deaths, and it could shut his whole business down. He could be sued. He could be put out of business. He's also trying to get the station up and running. So there's a lot on the line right now. And this is where Bertha should be supportive of her husband, but of course she's all about herself. And I like that it's happening, because I think it's making George look at Bertha a little bit differently. Now, of course, they'll never probably separate, or he'll never leave her. Of course, he loves her. This is just a bump in the road. But I want him to put his foot down. And although he's seen that she has been overreaching with Gladys, and she's been out of pocket in a lot of other ways, now it's really hitting home with him. And I think seeing her insensitivity firsthand is bothering him. And this is probably what's going to cause him to be less compromising with her and put his foot down. Now, she don't look like she's going to back down easily, but I have a feeling, I mean, again, at the end of the day, he is the man of the household, and he will shut her down. So I'm hoping to see some more of that push and pull and tension between the two of them, because I think he's really the only one who can actually get her in check, and she needs to be put in check. So I'm hoping that that's what comes out of this, that she continues to be insensitive, and he sees more and more of it, and it pisses him off, and he tells her about herself. So that was it. I thought it was really good. I want to know what y'all think about Mr. Rakes. Do you guys think we can trust him? What do you think is his story? What do you think Agnes is going to do next? Because she's clearly pissed, and she's gonna play the long game, but she's not going to take this sitting down. What's going to happen to Banister? Or and Bertha's over here just collecting enemies. So the people who do support her, like Aurora and them, and Clara, they're only doing it because it's serving them on some level. But she done pissed off Church. Her husband's mad at her. Her daughter's pissed with her. Agnes hates her. Anne Morris, is blaming her for her husband's death. So she's just collecting a lot of enemies at this point. So we'll see how this all plays out as we go week to week. But again, another great episode. And I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it. Let's talk about it in the comments. Again, please do do share, and most importantly, please subscribe to the channel. I do these reviews once a week. And if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, once I upload a new video, you will get a notification so you can come on and watch, and we can talk about it. Have a good week, and I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.